Come down. Ooh, you make my high come down. Always tripping when you come around. Never have to cut you out like right now. You see, I don't have to drive me. You can say that for your mama. Maybe you should smoke some. Me try the marijuana. I was never you good. The vibe was straight. Showed you a couple of things and they feel strange. I treated you right. Everything was a gift from a time to your bag and the color on your lip.
Welcome to the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast, powered by Blue Wire. Shout out to the new company. My name is Michael-Shawn and You guys can follow me on whatever Elon Musk is calling that app these days. My @name has not changed, @Mike Dugar, MikeDugar. Shout out to everyone who is either watching or listening via our YouTube channel. Seahawks Man-to-Man is the name of the channel. That's Seahawks Man, the number 2 man. For all my audio people, just shoot over there, hit like, subscribe. And then you can shoot right back. That's fine if you're not even a YouTube person, but just that little gesture right there means a lot to us. It helps us going forward with growing the show. Thank you. Chris, go ahead and talk to him.
What is going on, everybody? It is your boy, Christopher Kidd. You can follow me on Twitter at CKIDD206 and that's CKid206. And yes, YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. Every time I go and check the comments, there's one new user. I didn't even know you guys had a YouTube channel. I'm subscribed now. Where y'all been? But nonetheless, thank you for all the love and support. Yes, go to YouTube, subscribe, type in Seahawks Man, the number 2 man. We pop right up. Go ahead and subscribe. We'll have plenty of content for you throughout the season, including, I haven't talked to Mike about this off wax, but I'm assuming he'd probably be down to bring back standout plays for you guys, and we break down certain plays that we love from the regular season that previous week. That might be an addition coming back as well as our preview for certain games that we used to do. I think it was what?
We can pretty much do every game now. Yeah, I got somebody first for the Dolphins because the Athletic doesn't cover the Dolphins. I already got someone for that. I'm gonna talk to the Denver guy. I think I'm gonna get us a different Denver guy for week 1, but we'll have someone lined up. Get my man Chad for a New England game. So yeah, it's already in the works. We're good. We should have someone for every game. I'm not sure on Arizona. Nobody covered the Cardinals. But we'll I swear I have this issue every year, man. Nobody covered the Cardinals. Like I don't even get asked to do no radio ahead of those games either. Usually I get a call like, yo, this is such and such from the fan at this city. I don't even get none of that. No Phoenix radio, Scottsdale, nothing. It's kind of crazy. Anyway, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. For now, preseason is in the books. Can I complain about something real quick before we?
I should say no, but
it'll be brief. Mike. I promise.
No, I don't care about that length, but go ahead.
What in the world was Roger Goodell and his team doing when they put a preseason game on a Saturday night?
Oh yeah, that's
10 o'clock Eastern. What? What do we?
Yeah,
come on.
That was
the
crazy.
Whole rest of the league played earlier today. Like my editor hit me. He was like, so he does our Steelers editing too, and he was like, yeah, man, if you want to send something to me before the game, I'm free. The Lions play at like 10 a.m. or the Lions and Steelers play at like 10 a.m. Saturday, so I got a big gap. I said, what? And then I looked at the rest of the schedule, but everybody was done. This was like the nightcap. I have no idea why it was so late. My man covered the Browns. He ain't even fly out for the trip, but he's back at the crib.
1 a.m.
It's midnight and it's only halftime. In Cleveland, bro, and you got to stay up.
Dirty
and watch
work.
Dominique Thompson, whatever. Dorian Thompson Robinson.
DTR.
Back shoulder fades to Michael Woods II. Come on, man. No, that's Goodell. What are we doing, bro? This could have easily been a 5 o'clock kick Pacific time.
4.
A lot more sense. Yeah, I think the Giants game. I think the Giants and Jets ran into it. They probably wanted that in like a big window because it's New York. But still, man, come on.
It's a preseason
this was nuts. There's no way. I look up and it's like it's 8:40 and it's halftime on a Saturday. That was
I was like, get this game going, man. Come on.
Yeah. And while I complained about something, I will give a kudos to both coaches. They was definitely going for it on 4th downs today. They was like, we're not about to just be punting on 4th and short. Let's speed this game up. I appreciated that from the coaches. Although Mike McDonald throwing a challenge for like, brother, I know you need some reps, but you got 17 games for that. You do not need that on a Saturday night in the preseason. Those are my only gripes. I got 2 gripes and 1 compliment. it's a compliment sandwich or whatever they teach you in school. I just wanted to get that in there because I couldn't be the only person thinking that was just absolutely egregious for a 7:00 tip or kickoff on a Saturday night. Bro, come on, what are we doing?
It's not the NBA, but hey, NFL's doing something different for preseason this season, and 7 p.m. kickoff. How you like that? To your point, 8:20, 8:30, whatever time it was, we just now getting to halftime. Yeah, yeah.
And it was the longest third quarter in the world. I think that must have been when a lot of points were scored. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. Only 3 scores in the third quarter. I don't know why the third quarter took so long, but yeah, that was the game itself didn't feel bad, but I just remember thinking like, bro, 7:00. What that was the only complaint. That's it. Otherwise, I had a good time. This was my first live preseason game of the season. I hate watching games on TV, so I was grateful to be there. I just wished, would have been there during the day. That's all.
And I'm sure the 12 that were in the stadium, they agreed with you. I heard it was rocking. That's all they kept saying on the broadcast. It's rocking, it's loud. So even for a preseason game. So I'm sure the fans agree with you, Mike. They were happy to be there to watch these guys compete for a roster spot and ultimately get the win as they get ready for now the Denver Broncos for week 1, which should be a soft landing. All right. Bo Nix is starting. That's good, but go out there and embarrass that young boy. For real.
It's brutal. We'll talk about that more with I got 2 options in mind for Denver. I will say to the atmosphere part, it was rocking, but obviously I've heard louder, because it's been regular season games. I've only been at one playoff game where there were no fans, so I don't have a point of reference for that. But I will say the thing that is cool about the live experience is the buildup when there's a long play. Like as soon as D cut back, you could feel the roar. Like way before by the time he crosses the end zone, that crowd's kind of doing whatever. But the roar of like as soon as he cut back, because we can all see, oh damn, if he clears this one guy, it's gone. Like, and you could feel that and that build, and then to see all the teammates on the sidelines, that was cool. Same thing on Kenny McIntosh's long run. When he clears the second level, you hear like and then it's like one man to beat, and he stiff arms poor gotta call him out on the show. Poor Chase Williams. Poor man. Hope his family wasn't watching. That was bad.
Mike, his family was watching. Don't do that.
I don't know. It was late on the East Coast. They could have fell asleep. I don't know where this Chase Williams cat is from. I'll figure that out. Next time you talk, I'll Google where Chase Williams is from. But
I'll put it this way, Mike. If your baby girl's on national TV doing anything, you ain't falling asleep.
That depends. Who knows? Who knows what type of relationship Chase has with his family? I think he was a tryout guy, so they probably was hyped that he made the team even to make the camp roster. So you're right. They probably was watching, but that was bad. But anyway, when my man got stiff armed, that was when the crowd really ignited because it was like, oh, it's real now. Now he's going to score. You can't really feel that. You can't feel that at home, and it's much different than like DK's touchdown because there's no buildup. Like Geno throws it, but it was a 21-yard pass, so the ball's not in the air that long, so you can't really feel like that. Like in the movies where there's like everyone's still, you feel that on the long plays. So I'm glad we got a couple of those in the Seahawks' favor, and I got to see. I love those. That build up. As soon as D cut back, I was like, yeah, he's gone. And then I just listened to the playback. Mike Robinson was like, oh, he got some space, and you could, say it's like he was seeing the same thing I was seeing. So that was cool. Yeah. But you can't really beat that. And being at a game when something cool happens. Yes. And at night, as much as I complain about the late kickoff, a Seahawks night game, I've been to a few other stadiums at night. Seahawks night game is really tough to beat. Dallas has been the only thing that has come close. So Seahawks night atmosphere.
Checkbox. Well, we got a lot to get to in regards to the preseason game. There was a lot that stood out. There was a lot that could have been better. I know it wasn't the cleanest game. I think Mike actually mentioned that in his presser after the Seahawks game. But what stood out to you, Mike, from maybe I'll just leave it open. What stood out to you from this final preseason game as they prepare for their first matchup week 1 against the Broncos?
The first thing, like before the ball even got kicked, was I'm really random with this, but it feels like other people might have been curious about it. They just didn't realize they were, is who would be the last person to get announced with the starters. I didn't know if they would do they alternate. So like week 1, they'll probably do the offensive starters in the starting lineup because they did the defensive starters today. That'd be my guess. And, for a long time, it was Bobby bringing up the rear on the defense. I don't remember who was the last person in 2022 when he was gone. I want to say, I can't, maybe Jordan. It wasn't Jordan Brooks. Yeah, maybe Quandre. I think Quandre might have been last in the year that Bobby was gone. That's my guess. I can go back and look. But anyway, I was kind of curious about who that would be. I thought it maybe be Jay Reed or Leonard, and no, they went with Spoon. Year 2 Spoon has already earned the closer.
I'm not surprised though. Were you?
Role. A little bit. Like I said, I kind of thought it would lean Jay Reed just because of seniority. I don't know how that's chosen, and maybe I could go do a story on that. I don't know how that's chosen. So that keeping in mind the seniority and Jay Reed being a familiar face. I mean, even Reek is, I see more Reek jerseys than probably Spoon jerseys at this point, just because of how long he's been on the team. I guess just a year longer, but still, like I thought maybe it would be someone else, and it was Spoon, and good for him. That was cool. Kind of speaks to his popularity. Again, I don't know how that's chosen, but that stood out to me just as like a little small nugget. That was dope. Me, I don't like putting the starters out there. But if they are going to go out there, see what you need to see and get them out quick. Mike did that with the starting defense, as he should have. But then he might have lost Chenna, like that. That's the risky run. And it's just not, like, what did you really learn from Chenna in how many snaps did Chenna play? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, and then he got a penalty. 4. Chenna played 4 snaps. Was it worth it? And even if he didn't get hurt, he would have played 6. Was 6 snaps worth it? Well, I guess his play was a penalty. So 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 snaps. Is that worth that? Probably not. So I was a little. I understood why he put him out there, Mike McDonald, that is, but that was like, that's the risky run, and is it really worth it to get 6 or 7 snaps out of your guys? Particularly if they get hurt, you're this close to the season, so I didn't like that. I didn't like that the risk came to fruition there, so to speak. And then it was at the position. There's a few positions they could least afford an injury. Inside linebacker is probably number 1, but number 2, I think, was on the edge because we they traded Darrell Taylor on Friday, I want to say. Gave him up for a 2025 6th round pick, which is basically punting him, meaning you were going to cut him, so you'll just take anything for him. Save $3 million in cap space, which is not an insignificant number. But the reason why I was kind of against that move was this exact scenario. It has nothing to do really with the talent per se. Like, I do think DT is a good pass rusher. I mean, look at his numbers. He's been productive in 49 games, 21.5 sacks. Like, that's just not nothing. But we've seen his struggles in the run. We've also seen him just beyond the run. He just does a lot of weird stuff. Like, remember that time he just knocked Jared Goff out? I don't know if he thought Jared Goff had the ball. It was very strange. I remember he came on to celebrate Quandre Diggs' interception against the Raiders, so he wasn't even on the field. Just a few weird things here and there like that. Good player, but I don't even care about that. It's the depth. I have watched this team for the last 2 years need outside linebackers and have to call 30-plus-year-old dudes off their couches, and play them significant minutes. They played Bruce like 60% of the snaps, I think, once he showed up in 2022. Last year, they ended up calling Frank off his couch. He wasn't on his couch long, but called him off his couch. You bring him back. That doesn't work out. You got to move Draymond to outside backer at 285 pounds or whatever he was last year. That didn't work. So it just – and then you had to trade for Leo, which it wasn't bad, but still, you just had to do it. It just showed your lack of depth. And I felt like, maybe you felt like you had a surplus at edge because of D-Hall, Boye, Chenna, and who am I missing? And moving Draymond to outside backer, right? Maybe you feel like you had a surplus. You don't need 5 outside backers. I just feel like DT is such good depth in the event that what happened the previous 2 years happens again. And what do you know? It happened the next day. I don't know how long Chenna's out. By the time this comes out, maybe there's an update. I asked Mike McDonald was asked about that Saturday night. He said he didn't know. So they'll look at it tomorrow, which probably means like an MRI of some sort. By the time this drops Sunday morning, maybe there's an update. Maybe there's not. It could not be that bad. We don't know. The point is that he got hurt. Because now, let's say Chen is out for a few weeks. Now what do? Now you need another backer. Maybe now you're moving Mike Morris outside or something. And now you're bumping Leo out there a bit more. But, you can't have Leo dropping. He's like 300 pounds. Right? So that limits what you want to do. I just feel like John Snyder and his staff have seen up close the last 2 seasons what one injury at outside linebacker can do to the entire defense. Seen it twice. I forget who got injured in 2022. Maybe I think it was Bam Johnson or something, like broke his foot or something like that. But either way, they just seen it 2 years in a row, and they've been screwed. I felt like this was not the year to feel like they had depth was a luxury. No, depth is what you need, because at any given play, Chenna can go down. D Hall, Boye, Draymond, who's already out. So did not like that. That stood out in the wrong way. The defense looked fine. I don't really have a lot to say there. Cleveland didn't play its starters. They played Jameis, who might be better than Deshaun at this point. Who knows? But Chris, I was holding my breath when Geno, those guys were out there for sure. Especially after Chenna got hurt. After Chenna got hurt, if Mike McDonald was just like, you know what? Never mind. Sam, go. Like, I would maybe say, hey, Geno, Charles, who else? DK, Jackson, put some Air Monarchs on, boys. You're done. Like, if he'd have said that after the Chenna injury, I would not have blamed him, because it matters. It's how many snaps did DK play today? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That worth it? Who knows? I mean, DK came out okay, but you guys get my point. But in the snaps they did play, I was encouraged by what I saw. I like the demonstration of the command of the offense that Geno has. I've been told about it a little bit in the behind the scenes. Haven't had a chance to talk about it much because, Geno hasn't played. We really only seen him in joint practices. We didn't see him in the preseason, but that's something that was brought up to my attention in Tennessee. It was like, Mike, look, Geno's that dude. We trust him to do all the checks. We trust his vision pre-snap to get us in the right plays. Now he had that freedom with Shane Waldron, but you can really see it. I mean, I didn't mention this to you, Chris, before we recorded. So remember, I thought that Geno no-looked the ball against Quandre in Tennessee.
And you said it was like a 30-yard pass?
Yeah. I found out he did no-look that.
Oh, my God.
Geno's a sicko. Yeah, sicko. I found out he no-looked that. I saw a replay of it. I was like, yeah, someone let me see a replay of it. I was like, oh, that's a bad boy. And it just kind of shows you the command he has. Like, he's out here no-looking 30, 40-yarders or whatever, in a joint practice. But also what speaks to his command is that Jackson fade ball today, the slot fade.
Beautiful.
I don't know what play call they had, but I do know, and you can kind of see it on the replay. You see Geno say something to Jackson, who says something to DK, so they're relaying the message, and then slot fade against, I think, some guy who's probably not going to make the Browns starting lineup. Yeah, he's way back here. I can't even find his name. I think he was number 29. Doesn't matter. But the point is, that was an example of like, oh, Geno sees something, go for it. I like that, because beyond the arm talent, that is why one of the many reasons why I'm not in a hurry in some cases to replace a competent starting quarterback with just some young buck. Everyone talks about just getting younger at quarterback. It's really a talking point in the offseason. It's just like, oh, they got this young guy. Yeah, but is the young guy good? That matters more than anything. If your young guy is not good, it doesn't matter if he's 21, 28, or whatever, and your starter's 57. If your starter's better, his body can hold up, you're going to play that guy, no matter how old he is. So I think that was just another good illustration. And I feel like I've been talking up the Geno and JSN connection this offseason. They've been nails in camp. They've been nails in joint practice. And finally, we got to see a taste of it. And that was a good example, because that's one of those where I didn't get this like specifically from Geno or Jackson, but I'm very sure that was an instance of like, hey, yo, Jax, if we get this, it's just like we did in Miami, or it's just like we did in Dallas when we were in the offseason. This was one of them things we didn't worked on so much that it's just a quick little, oh, okay, you do, yep, bang, and you can do that against anybody. Me and you have been watching this long enough to know that even when you're playing third stringers or whatever, ball placement is ball placement. like the best corners in the world give up a catch. That ball would have been cash against whoever, anybody's nickel corner for sure, because there ain't that many good ones anyway. The Browns have a good one, but either way, it would have been cash. So like that was really cool to see, and then to hear from Jaxon a little bit after, kind of talking about trusting Geno in those situations. And then Chris, I guess the last thing was the most fun play in the playbook. Throw it up to DK. I wish that's what it was called in the huddle,
Well, why
like,
couldn't
hey
they
guys,
do that?
here we go. Grubb says, throw it up to DK. Ready?
Break. Pretty simple. I've always wondered why, if I was to be an offensive coordinator, I would really have plays that are as simple as that. Hey, we're just going to hand the ball off. I need you to seal the edge. I need you to pull. Let's go. Break. That's simple. You don't have to Z42, banana jet, Z3, 45Q on 3. Break. There's no need for that.
No, play calls are crazy long. In some systems are real.
No,
real
there's no system that we're going to DK on 3. Break.
No, some of them is that. Some of them is that simple. Some of
really.
Them,
what? I need to hear this.
All right, I'll give you some examples. So you guys remember the touchdown to Sidney Rice that beats the Patriots in 2012? If you guys remember that, that's the game. You remember that though? Yeah, it's the ball. It's the one where Sherman's going up to Brady after, and it's the "you mad?"
Oh, you mad, bro?
Yeah. And Sidney wins the game with a touchdown from Russ. They obviously had a play call, but what happened was they got in the huddle, and Russ was like, "Yo, Sid, we about to win right here." I don't even know if anybody else ran a route. I'd have to go back and look at it, but I'm pretty sure Russ got in the huddle and was like, "Yo, Sid, here we go. I'm about to launch this joint to you."
Okay, there we go. I like that.
So that's an example of one. Another one would be the name of the check on Jermaine Kearse's game-winning touchdown in the Packers title game.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so they check to that play because they decided if they get cover 0, I forget who the defensive coordinator was, but apparently he just does cover 0 randomly once a game. So Darrell Bevell was like, whenever we get it, check 50. Yeah, check 50, and the play call is 50 Cobra is what it's called, which I think the 50 has to do with the protection. And it's basically against cover 0. It's a go ball. So that's an example of just something simple that's like, and you can kind of hear Russ on like the All Access or whatever NFL Films recap of it. It's like check 50, and the play is 50 Cobra. It's just real simple language. Some of the language like that used to be very just short. At least some of the checks when they had Bevel stuff. I don't know about Shoddy and I don't know about Waldron, and I obviously don't know Grubb's play calls quite yet. But those are some examples of some very quick ones that are like, all right, we're just gonna. No one. It doesn't matter what anybody else does. We're about to just go right here. Yeah. Those a couple of. I have more, but we don't have to spend all show doing that. But I just want to throw those two out there because I remember them.
Yeah, I wonder who was the first coordinator to say, yeah, I'm going to make this complicated and throw like 9 different names in there and then have another title and break on 3. But whatever, to your point, we don't have to make a whole show
I do know the answer to that if you would like it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know the first coordinator, but I do know the logic behind it was initially for a lot of coordinators was to make sure everyone knew their job.
That makes sense.
So instead of something short like Green Ranger or something or like 18 switch, right? How is everybody supposed to know what they do on 18 switch? So the longer play calls would be like, all right, we got X tight, Z, whatever, something jet. It tells everyone what they're supposed to do,
That's
so
fair.
if you're the X, all right, this is X whatever, there's a code, and that means I'm running it. I got a 9, right? Or whatever, and then you got the Z and then the Y tight, it tells everyone where to line up and what to do. So it sounds long, but really everyone, you're just telling each individual guy
their job.
Yeah. So that's part of the logic behind some of these longer play calls. What gets really long is then they'll have 2 and 1. I remember Sean Mannion telling me about that. He was like, yeah, so we'll have the play. And then in the middle, we'll say can or kill. And that means that's the second one. So if we kill the first one, we're going to the second play now.
Yeah, I've heard kill.
Yeah, the kill. Yeah. So you'll have something X, Y, this, kill, blah, 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 or can, blah, 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 blah. That means we're killing that player, canning it, whatever. So, yeah, it gets real complicated. But some of the receivers that I've talked to that come from some of these spread offenses, because, they look to the sideline and their coach just, looks like they're telling you to steal third base. And that's why they run the plays in college. And the pros, how they transition a little easier is the longer play calls. It's like, all right, I just know I'm the Y on this play. Whatever it says Y do, that's me. I don't know any other stuff. I just know that he says Y out or something like that. All right, cool. I got an out route. I don't know what everybody else doing. I don't know protection. I just know what I'm doing. It kind of helps some of these kids who come from all these spread offenses in college.
And I think that's what makes Mike Macdonald's defense so challenging, is because now you're asked to know every position for the most part, right? Well, not every position, but a lot more positions. You talk to a lot of the defensive players when you guys are talking to them for interviews after practices, and they're saying, oh yeah, we have to learn this position. I might be playing outside here. And that goes back to in the play call. I know defense is probably a lot more simplified. It's not too crazy, but you still have to know the intangibles of what a lot of positions are supposed to do on that specific play, because in some scenarios, you'll see a Mike Morris freaking QB spy. What? Loved it. He did a great job, by the way, on it against DTR.
Are you talking about against the Chargers?
No, he did it against the DTR against the Browns. Mike Morris
today?
He did a QB spy. I said, what? He did a great job. I think DJ did. Go ahead.
For what it's worth, that could have not been on purpose.
Oh.
So, yeah, so I'll put it. I don't think every time we've seen a D lineman drop, this is with Ken Norton and Clint Hurt, it may not always have been on purpose, because sometimes there's signals, and some guys can read it wrong and they end up dropping, or the coach in a place like the preseason. I've seen this happen a couple times where coach is calling it, not knowing who's on the field, because they're changing so much, and it's just like, oh, damn, that was you. You dropped, huh? My bad. I know one instance in particular. Remember, it was against the Steelers. I think this is 2022, and I think Brian Monet and Puna ended up dropping.
Yeah, there was a 2-man pass rush. I said, what the hell?
Yes, that was a mistake. For instance,
yes,
Clint Hurt is not.
There was no world.
He's not that wild. Yeah, or I don't even remember who was the coordinator at the time. I just know that I don't think Brian Monet was supposed to drop. I can't remember who was wrong, but one of them was wrong. So in some instances when we see this stuff, it may not always be that that was the intent. I didn't see Mike Morris do it, so I don't know. I missed that play today. I must have been getting coffee or something. But yeah, that's been brought to my attention that some of these drops over the years have not been correct.
Well, Mike,
which
I'm sorry.
My point, I'm just like, why you all keep doing it?
I'm glad it worked out because they were able to get a sack. So kudos to Mike Morris doing it. And if it wasn't a part of the game plan on that specific play, you made it work. It looked great. And I'm sure Mike will give you some insight on what to do next time. But what stood out for me real quick before we get to Twitter questions was you talked about Geno and having command of the offense. They didn't run the ball once. It was as if they were showcasing that, yeah, Geno is fine. He can make every throw. We're comfortable. And that's what it was. He looked fluid, confident, and it was as if he didn't miss a beat. It was really impressive to see. And the connection that he had with JSN, with DK, we have been championing for Geno to just throw it up to DK. Just give him a chance. And you saw that, and it looked effortless. In my head, I'm thinking DK, the first 10 games, should have a touchdown every Sunday. There's no excuse for that.
That would be nuts, but I get your point.
But that's kind of how simple it looked. Obviously, there's more to it. They're going to blitz. They're going to probably do 2 shells, have a safety covering over the top of DK, and that's going to open things up for someone else. But until that point, the opportunities for DK to dominate should be available. And with Ryan Grubb's system and what we've seen so far, which is, a little bit, I'm very confident that Geno and company, they're going to have a really strong offensive year. Obviously, it really depends on the offensive line, and still not a great update in regards to Abe Lucas. I think you might have asked him, Mike, like, hey, what's up with Abe? I don't want to talk about it right now.
I didn't ask about Abe today because he just
not today, but I think it was on last Friday, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe Wednesday.
He just keeps not telling us. Yeah, who knows? I think Abe's going to start the year on PUP, physically unable to perform is what PUP is. But yeah, I don't think they'll have Abe to start the year. They could. No one told me that, but it just doesn't like Abe's not even practicing yet, so I'm a little concerned about that.
But all that being said, I just back to you stating Geno having command of that offense. They didn't even run the football. There is not a I don't know how many times that would have happened in a Pete Carroll offense. They just say, you know what? Geno, you're just going to throw every play. They will run it at least once. And I was waiting for it. I was like, they are going to run soon on this drive here. There's no way he's going to go 5 for 5 and pass the football every single time. He went 4 or 5, one incomplete. That was the first pass to DK that went out of bounds, as you mentioned, the little out route. After that, it was money, 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 money. All right, you're done for the night. And I thought that was just really telling. And Ryan Grubb's system of, yeah, we can run the football, but we also have Geno. So we can definitely throw it. And that's going when you look across the league at other teams, for example, and this is probably unfair to the Seahawks, but with the Chiefs, they are a pass first offense. Like they are looking to throw the football. Now, if you're going to schematically do things different, okay, sure, they'll probably check down to a run, but coming out when they're looking the first play of the game, it's likely going to be a quick pass or a pass in general. And to see that Ryan Grubb is taking this offense to that level of, yeah, we have a quarterback that's capable of making any type of throw, and we trust him to do that. And to do it for the whole first drive and just throw it across the field. You talked about the play with JSN, which I really liked. A great route, great throw, great catch, executed perfectly. O-line did their job. That's what you want to see from this offense. And then when you want to run the football, you can. You saw that. And I think it's just going to be really cool to see how this offense really turns things up this season, especially with Ryan Grubb. We saw with UW and what they could do. Obviously, it's a little different just because UW had arguably the best offensive line in the country. Seahawks, I don't think have the best offensive line in the NFL, but they
do not. I can tell you that with confidence.
They are taking strides, though, to be a better product than they have been in the past few seasons. And I think that showcase, those first 5 plays from Geno, is an example of we trust this offensive line. We trust Geno. Let's go out here, send a message to ourselves, to themselves, that they can do it. And I just was really impressed by that, which is a small sample size, obviously, but I thought it was a really powerful statement from that unit to go out there and execute the way they did.
Yeah, I think to the command part too, who knows? They could have had some runs called.
True.
Geno might have checked out of it,
Command.
Yeah, I've seen that with some Pete Carroll offenses, a little bit with Geno, where he has the autonomy to, all right, they're giving us this look. It's up to you. Get us into the right look. I think one of the plays today, I think Jackson's first catch, or how many catches did Jackson have? Jackson have 2?
I think he had 2.
Jackson. Yeah, he had 2. His second catch, I believe, is like an RPO. So that may be like, okay, let's see how maybe we're reading the nickel or something like that. But it's Geno driven. I think I wrote something a couple of weeks ago where I mentioned that the offense is built around the quarterback. And that's an example of that. It's like, all right, let's see what Geno sees and trust him to get us in or out of the right call. Because what I've learned about Grubb's offense, both by watching it and talking to some people, it's very if-then. If they show us this, then here's our answer to that. Our answer may be a run. It may be a different pass. It may be a different run. But we're giving Grubb, we're giving our center, we're giving our quarterback the autonomy at the line to get us in and out of stuff. Doesn't mean Geno can change every play, but generally speaking, he has the autonomy. So there may have been some instances today where it was like, all right, we're going to call this, but like we were just talking about with the kill. But if they come out in this, we think we're getting this shell, they're going to rotate out of this, blah, blah, blah. The Browns just happen to be so arrogant. I think the defensive coordinator is still Jim Schwartz, right? I think so.
Ooh, that's a great point.
Yes, it's still Jim Schwartz. And, DK hates Jim Schwartz.
Yeah.
Remember, that's the guy who said he wasn't Megatron.
Yeah,
and then when he was the DC of the Eagles and he hit them for like 140 yards or something.
Yeah, so great game.
So Jim plays a lot of man. And even today with his backup corners, he was playing a lot of man. So today that was probably why they were probably a little bit more pass heavy with the starters, because they know Jim. They've seen him, Probably like, hey, Jim's going to play a lot of man. So if we get this look, bombs away, boys. And they were able to go down the field. Whereas if they get one more conservative coordinator, like who's a more conservative? Like if they're to play maybe a Vic Fangio defense that's a little bit more split chill, like they're probably going to get in week 3 against the Dolphins with Anthony Weaver, I think is their DC. Maybe it's like, all right, maybe we got to run it a little bit more. But Jim Schwartz, bombs away, boys. Before we get into questions, I was on a Cleveland radio station yesterday, I want to say, Friday, and we were talking about the Cleveland defense. They were really great last year, but their road and home splits in terms of scoring were bananas. I knew it was bad because I remember in the playoff game when they got roasted that I remember seeing a graphic, but I didn't know how bad it really was. Chris, did you know, I think if I have this right, they were giving up 10 points a game at home last year, the Browns, and it was like 31 on the road. Like they were just getting I almost cussed. They were just getting destroyed on the road and they were the Legion of Boom at home, and they were pretty much every Saints defense with Drew Brees on the road. They were just god awful. I've never seen a split like that, home and away. A 20-point difference.
How do you quantify and explain that?
Yeah, that's and they play outdoors at home, because you could maybe attribute some of that to like, okay, we're good in a dome or something, but not outside. No, you play outside at the crib.
That's a 21-point difference. My God.
Yeah, that was according to whoever I was on with on Friday, something the fan. Like it was when he said it to me, I was like, oh my God. So yeah, it speaks to Jim Schwartz, boy. Everyone's just like bombs away on that boy when you're on the road. Just bombs away against that guy. He is. I commend his aggression, but goddamn, that's
overkill.
Awful. Yeah, that's the type of stuff that'll get you fired. But Jim's a good DC, so.
Yeah, well, not like that. Not on the road. He's not.
You're right. Not on the road. You are. Yeah, because that is disgusting. I'm gonna see if I can look. Let's get to the next topic. While you're doing that, I'm gonna look this up.
Well, bombs away on Twitter questions. Mike hit the timeline. Want to see what y'all thought as we wrap up the 2024 Seahawks preseason and getting prepared for week 1 against the Denver Broncos, and you guys got right to it. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and answer as many Twitter questions as we can. We appreciate all the love and support from each and every single one of you that took the time to ask a question. Kicking things off with my boy Kemwell Santana at Santana_speed. Mike, are they going to carry 4 running backs and 5 defensive ends? And if so, Sheriff, does he make the roster? Halani McIntosh, how's that going to work out?
All right, I have the split I'm going to answer that, but I just wanted to, because I said I would look it up. So the Browns gave up 29.6 points per game on the road.
You can round up to 30, man.
That is the most in the league. Them and the Denver Broncos both did that. And when they were at home, let's see. At home, they were the best scoring defense in the league at 14 points.
Wow.
So there you go. So it looks like that host's numbers were a little off. But either way, that's a huge. They were quite literally the worst defense in the league scoring on the road and the best at home. I've never seen that in my life.
For the Broncos, I wonder how much of that goes into their loss against the Miami Dolphins when they gave up 70.
Yeah, I'm sure that skews the sample quite a bit. Although with 16 other games in the sample, that wouldn't. I mean, it would skew it, but perhaps not that bad. But you're right. A 70 ball is nuts, and it was all 70 on offense as well. No special teams, no defense. That was just a 70 ball, just good old fashioned ass kicking. Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, the Browns were the best scoring defense in the league at home, but they were the worst on the road. That's crazy. That's I've never seen anything like that. Anyway, to the point of the question, let's start with the offense. I am a big fan of like just running the ball, not even talking about catching or pass blocking, which are really important for that running back 3 job. But if it comes down to the reason why I want to focus on running the ball is because if it gets to the point where whoever is running back 3 is playing, that means you're running the ball. Because that means Zach and Ken are probably hurt, and they're going to need you to run the ball. Because both of those dudes, Ken and Zach, can pass block, pass protect, and run the rock on all 3 downs and 4th down if need be. So they don't really need a 3rd down They don't need a third back when everyone's healthy, which is why DJ Dallas didn't really touch the ball much last year. They just didn't need it. Zach, when it's like 3rd and 7, you could put Zach out there. You could put Ken out there. You just didn't need a third guy. So when you look at just running the ball, I was really pleased with what I saw from Kenny, because I kind of had typecast Kenny as a just little speedster guy, scat dude, because that's kind of what it looked like at Georgia. I didn't do a deep dive on his film because he was 7th round pick, and I was busy with some of the other prospects at the time. But it was just kind of, I didn't realize how much power he had, I guess is the short version of what I want to say. And he was showing that from day one. In terms of the preseason this year, he has power, good contact balance, guys bouncing off of him. He was lowering his shoulder. Today, he just stiff arm a man in open space. All the stuff he looked like Ken, really. The way Ken can do everything and Zach can do everything. He looked just like that. And George Holani, credit to him, he showed a little bit of that too. But Chris, I think I put this in my roster projection story, which is probably out by the time this pod dropped. I don't have it in front of me. I already filed it. But I think Kenny averaged 8.4 yards a carry in the preseason, which was the highest of all running backs in the preseason. 8.4 is ridiculous. Now, it's a small sample, but I think he ran the ball 17 times or something like that. So it wasn't like it was 1 or 2 carries. Now, 1 56-yarder, excuse it, but the 56-yarder was a product of some of the stuff we're talking about: contact balance, vision, just power. Kenny is a lot more complete than I thought. So I think they're only going to carry 3. If they're only going to carry 3, you go with Kenny. I just think he's a better runner, which does matter. I think George is a good runner, though. I thought George's best day running the ball was today. And I'm glad Mike McDonald called it out, because George Holani, bless his heart, he gave credit to the O-line post-game, as you should. All running backs should. In the name of the words of Marshawn Lynch, take him to Sizzler, right? Got to reward your O-line. But Chris, they were bad in a lot of instances. George had to make some stuff shake a couple times today, and Mike McDonald called that out, that he had to make a lot of stuff happen just to get positive yards. I noticed that too. I wrote that down in real time. So I'm glad that the coach noticed that in real time as well, because that was really more impressive than some of the other runs where things were well blocked. It was, all right, can you turn nothing to something real fast? Or can you just turn nothing to something positive, at the very least? So I thought today was his best day running the ball, but I thought Kenny had 3 games that were good running the ball, and the numbers back that up. Success rate, explosive plays, avoiding negative plays. Kenny was just on it. So yeah, I think the keep 3, you can probably waive George and get him back pretty easily, because running backs kind of a dime a dozen around the league. Everyone probably wants to keep the running backs they have, except for the Cowboys maybe. The Cowboys could probably use George Holani right now, but outside of them, you're probably okay. To go to the other side of the ball, I had them keeping 5 edge rushers initially before the Darrell Taylor trade. I had them keeping DT, Draymond, Boye, D Hall, and then Chenna, because I figured Draymond Jones would be healthy. Sounds like he should be okay, should practice next week. Chenna, Boye, D Hall are all fine. And then, like I mentioned at the top of the show, I thought the depth, I thought DT was worth keeping, because I knew you weren't going to fetch much for him. 6th round pick next year is not really, not much. To put that in perspective, Mike Jarrell is a 6th round pick. He's the offensive tackle from some very small school I can't remember the name of. He might not even make the team. That just shows you how 6th round picks are kind of viewed, So, and even if he does make the team, not going to play. So, Stolen Forsythe, 6th round pick, So, not to just poo-poo on those, but you guys get the point. So, I had him keeping 5. After the DT trade, I only have him keeping 4. I feel just about Holani as I do with Jamie Sheriff, baller, by the way, is that if you were to waive him, you'll probably be okay. I feel like a lot of fans get caught up in thinking all their guys are going to get claimed. It's not that many players get claimed, because all these teams have guys they like and want to keep. Everyone has a Jamie Sheriff for the most part. Not exactly the same, but you get my point, right? So that's why not a lot of guys get claimed. So I think they'll be able to potentially waive him, get him right back on the practice squad, and if Chenna's out for a little bit, or Draymond or whatever, you can call him right up and manipulate your roster and your lineups however you need to. That would probably be my plan there. Keep Kenny, keep 4 edge guys, assuming Draymond and Chenna are okay, and then you can just have Holani and then Sheriff, 2 guys who played well, on your practice squad.
All right, there we have it. This is from It's Daniel's Twitter. Zach Charbonnet as a number 2 running back, is that in question?
No. Man, I wish we got to see more of Zach, but he's hurt. I think his back or something tightened up when they got to Nashville. But I saw him practicing with pads on whatever day of the week this was last week. So that's an encouraging sign from him. But no, he's a number 2 guy. The thing is about the number 2, I don't know how much we've talked about it. We're not a fantasy football show, although me and Chris both play. We're in several leagues. We're in the same league. I'm going for the 3-peat in the league we're in together. Kenny is a number 1 for real. Like Kenny is, I'm sorry, now I'm talking about Ken Walker. It gets confusing because there's 2 Kens, but Ken Walker is a number. I'm talking like you give him 300 carries and he's probably winning the rushing title. Even if you give him like 240, I think he got 216 last year or something in that range. That's a rushing title potential winner type of guy. It's because of the explosiveness. Like I don't think Penny was that because he wasn't. I don't think he was every down like the way Ken is, but he was just as explosive. And Chris Carson didn't have the top end speed. Like linebackers could catch Chris, in the open field, which is pretty bad when you think about it. But he was just so tough that you just love him, and he could front flip over a safety if need be, or hurdle a guy. He just did everything. But Kenny is Ken Walker. I mean, is this the full K9? Damn the number 2. I need to see Ken as often as possible because he can catch, man. He one-handed. He got good soft hands. I just think he's the complete package. Like I think I would view him as a workhorse guy the same way I would like a Saquon or a Derrick Henry. How the Jets feel about Breece Hall, like all these guys, how the Vikings used to treat Dalvin Cook. I view Ken Walker the same way. Alvin Kamara, use him every type of way. I just think Ken's just such a good weapon. I know the question was about Zach, but I just had to get that in there because I don't know if we talk much about Ken this preseason because he hasn't played.
Fair enough. This next one comes from KP. Geno and JSN connection. It looked locked in from the first series that we all saw with the starters. What are the chances JSN leads the team in targets over Lockett and DK?
I don't think he'll lead the team in targets just because I feel like DK is just such a matchup nightmare. And his connection with Geno is very strong. And it's been strong for quite some time. People outside of Seattle, the way I put in perspective that Geno's not a new guy to this organization is Geno's been here just as long as DK. Like they signed, like Geno got drafted, or excuse me, DK was drafted the same year Geno signed his first contract with Seattle, 2019. So Geno and DK have been locked in for a while. Like you look at when Geno first started playing in 2021, he was basically just feeding the ball to DK. Like he didn't look like he had any rapport with Tyler, in those like 3 games or whatever that he played. Like he really looked much more locked in with DK because for whatever reason, because obviously Tyler had been here since he got here too, but it just for some reason him and 14 were just locked in, and I mean he has obviously a good rapport with Tyler too, but I think what's really going to show up with Geno and Jaxon more than just volume, because I still think Tyler's going to be a really big part of this offense, is the situational stuff. Like it wasn't a situation today. I think that was like a first down, maybe a second down on their big throw today, but it's just the communication. Hey, bro, are you seeing what I'm seeing? And let's make this happen. Chris, I know you'll remember this play. It was 2022 against the Giants, and Geno had just hit some pass. I forget to who, but on the next play, he just looks at Tyler, gives him a little signal, double move the corner, touchdown. Right? Like I think it was in the fourth quarter as well. It might have been the go-ahead score or the tie-breaking score at the time. Like it's an example of the rapport. Now I think you'll see Geno and JSN have that, where it's like, okay, hey bro, you seeing this? All right, cool. I'm gonna tap my head or tap my hip or scratch my butt, whatever the signal is. You seeing what I'm seeing, and we gonna make it happen. I just feel like that'll increase the efficiency, is particularly in those gotta have it scenarios, because I think that's what's more important than volume. It's how efficient are you? DK only caught like 55% of his targets last year. That's awful. Not to say that's all DK's fault, but that's an awful number. You really want that number between like 65 and 70.
Yeah.
Preferably 70, duh. But like way higher than nothing in the 50s is good. So I think that's where you'll see the connection pay off. I think Jaxon can end up being like wide receiver 2 by targets, but I got to see Tyler in the new offense before I like fully declare that. But yeah, efficiency I think is going to be bigger than who gets X amount of targets in Grubb's offense because it's so much, again, if then. So if we get this, then the matchup is DK. If we get that, then the matchup might be Jack, you know what I'm saying? It might be Noah. So I feel like that makes it hard to dictate who's going to get the most targets, but I feel like at the end of the day, DK is the ultimate mismatch. So I feel like he'll be wide receiver 1, when it's all said and done.
At Team Mike 206, did Eskridge do enough to make this team?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. No, but I am very happy for D because guys like him, Aesop Winston, Cody White, let's see who else. Chenault probably made the team, but some of those guys in the back end of the roster, man, at some point they probably got to feel like I might not make this team. But this film goes out to everybody. So everybody gets to see what I'm doing. I just feel like they have guys who do all the things that D brings. I feel like they have somebody else who also does the thing, and in some cases better. Like, for instance, I think Chenault does all the gadget stuff just as good, just as explosive in the special teams. So I think that they have that. I feel like if they just need like possession receivers, they have Jaxon, they have Tyler. You need red zone stuff. You need an outside receiver who can win one-on-one matchups. You have Bobo, who has really great hands, who has better hands than I think he probably is the third best hands. I'll probably go Tyler. And then Tyler, Aesop, and Jake are all probably right the same for me. And then so you got guys who got good hands. You got special teams dudes. You got gadget dudes. You got field stretchers, with Tyler, with DK, and even with Jaxon out of the slot. So I go down the list and I look at skill set. I'm just like, we have it all. So where I'm happy for D is somebody needs a punt returner somewhere. Somebody needs a kick returner somewhere. Somebody needs a gadget guy somewhere. Everybody don't got Chenault, right? So I think there's going to be an opportunity for him. Kind of what I thought would happen with Rashad Penny after he just turned into Barry Sanders for a little bit, that one year. And then the Eagles just didn't play him at all. Real weird. So that sucks, but I feel like he's going to get more ops. I feel the same about DJ Dallas. I think he's going to get more ops in Arizona than he was getting here. So there are some guys like that where I feel like they just needed to leave here and they can go do their thing. See with Bo Melton in Green Bay. Even David Moore, I think, is still doing his thing. I think he's in Carolina right now. So D's just one of those guys. They're too stacked up right now. Go somewhere else. Shoot, Darryl Taylor's in that boat. He wasn't going to play. They stacked up when everybody's healthy. Go do your thing in Chicago. Yeah, that's where I feel like D is. Because, I mean, at some point, though, for these receivers, you got to make plays as a receiver. What did D do today? 3 for 19. Yeah, just fine. It's not like blowing some, it wasn't like blown away. Decent stuff, some underneath stuff, real explosive. His thing is his explosion. And I just feel like he's not going to get the touches to do that here. There's just other guys who can be explosive in this offense. So, no, I don't think he did enough. A little bit too late. When you're playing in the second half of the final preseason game, that's usually not good for making the team. Just a little rule of thumb there. So, but again, happy for him. Good for him that he's going to get I feel like he's going to get a shot. I feel like we're going to see D catch some random goal ball in the week 13 with like the Detroit Lions or something like that. Yeah, the Lions could easily use D. So could the Chargers. Those are two teams off the top of my head who could use him.
This one comes from at Chris Lee 117. Which wide receivers are going to make the cut?
All right. Like I said, my roster projection is probably already out by the time this show drops. But if in the case that it's not, breaking news. I got your big three: DK, Tyler, Jax, or JSN, and then Jake Bobo. # more Bobo. We didn't get to see. I thought we'd see more of him in the preseason. It was unfortunate. He didn't get a lot of looks. But I mean, he was already going to make the team, so that's fine. I think Chenault's a lock. I think Chenault is just. It's one of the few times I feel like an offseason acquisition vision has come together this fast. It's like, oh, they signed Chenault to do a thing. oh, look at him
He
doing
does
the
it.
thing. Yeah, it just does it like right away. It didn't take a bunch of time. It was just like, oh, he's like our jet sweep gadget special teams guy. Cool. He's doing it right away.
Yep.
Yeah, it's great. I feel like we've had some other instances where they get a guy to do a thing and it sounds good in like March or April, and then he gets here and it's just like, oh, it takes some time, or he just never does the thing, or he's used incorrectly. I feel like we see that with draft picks too. But no, Grubb has figured out, oh, this is how I use Laviska Shenault. Boom, it works. Perfect fit. I was a little skeptical of it at first, but because I'm a little jaded. I've seen them acquire guys like Shenault and then not use them like Shenault. So I'm happy that Grubb put that together so fast. So I feel like he's a lock. Right now, Chris, my sixth guy is Derek Young. And I'm not going to lie, I don't have a justification for it other than, no, for real, just because I track the rotations at practice. So when Tyler's been out or other guys have been out, the sixth guy has consistently been Derek. You can even see it today in the preseason. When DK was done and Jax was done, the receivers were Bobo and Derek and Shenault, so that tells you who your top six were. That's almost all I got. Because if you want to talk about explosion, I feel like you got other guys for that. You talk about hands. Like I said, I think Aesop's got better hands. I think Aesop's a better route runner too. I think Cody is really explosive. You've seen his touchdown today. He got wiped off, but you've seen that play.
Yep.
If you need a field stretcher, Cody can do that. You know what I mean? So if it was up to me, I'd probably go with, I'm biased. I'd pick an Aesop. Go Cougs. But, Aesop was the leading receiver in the preseason. I think it's the second straight year he's been the leading guy too. It was either him or Bobo last year. I'm pretty sure it was Aesop though. So, that's probably the direction I would go. Even if somebody wanted to put Cody on there. Cody is not that fast, but boy, does he get open.
Yeah.
He's like the black Bobo. Like that was a 73-yard heave today.
He just ran right by him, buddy. Just ran by him.
Cody, I think Cody ran like a 4.5 or something. Not a fast
crazy.
dude. Like when you go to his little relative athletic score thing, you see a bunch of red. That's not good.
Fun fact: he did the long jump in high school, and I beat him in the long jump. He jumped, I think, 21 feet flat. I jumped 21 feet and 4 inches. Just want to throw that out there.
No, it speaks to the, particularly how far you can jump, because goddamn, that's far. But yeah, like I feel like if it was up to me, because my roster projections are about what I think will happen, not what I would do. What I would do would be different. I would probably put Aesop or Cody there, or just carry 5 guys. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, I think the 6 will be the big 3: Bobo, Shenault, Derek. That'll be my guess. And Mike McDonald gave a little bit of an explanation of perhaps why. Because I asked him today, I said, yo, what do you feel about what Derek has done? And he said, let me see, pull up his quote. I typed it out. He said, really like Derek. He's a really good player. He just does the right thing all the time. We're on record about the toughness that he has and the type of football player that he is, and then something else that's not usable, end quote. But so, guy who does the right thing all the time, that's important too. Doesn't make mistakes. But yeah, I feel like there's just more upside with some other dudes. That's all. But it's not keeping Derek is bad. I feel like he can be a good player. But yeah, if you ask me what Mike would do, I'd probably go with another guy.
This next one is from Kevin Barriga. Hope I'm saying that last name correct. But if not, at Kevo24GLZ. Which player do you think can surprise and or be a starter, maybe even an important rotational player this season?
That's a good one. I feel like, I don't know if it'll be a surprise at this point, but if they get to a point where they're just like, you know what? We're just a big nickel team, and we're just going to put Kavon Wallace on the field all the time, I could see them evolving into that. Because right now, they're a primary nickel team, which puts Trey Brown on the field, Spoon in the slot, and Reek with Reek, and then Julian and Rayshawn, which is fine. I think that lineup is fine. No issues with it. I feel like you got versatility out of that lineup. Now, their big nickel package is Spoon and Reek and then kind of like a Julian Love nickel situation, which is also fine. I think Julian played corner at Notre Dame and initially played nickel for the Giants when they drafted him. So he has kind of that quandary track where he went corner, nickel, safety. So it can work. I'm not opposed to that. The reason I'm not opposed to that lineup is because of Kavon. I do think, or I might be saying his name wrong. I might be Kavon, but let's just call him Buck. He said his nickname Buck. So you didn't see why he said Buck? I can tell you why. It's okay. He just did it.
I remember the presser, but I don't remember his response to what was it? I forget.
So it was a very strange explanation, which is why I remember it. He said his grandmother says when he was born, his eyes were kind of wide, and she said they were buck-eyed.
Yes, I remember that.
And then
yes.
At the end of the explanation, he says something to the effect of like they were buck-eyed like a deer, which is how she started calling him Buck. So I was very intrigued by that because I believe the expression when someone's eyes are big is bug-eyed. Right? So when I heard Buck, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. But then there was the deer explanation, deer in headlights. Okay, so we're kind of, buck, deer. All right, I got you. And then I looked up where Kavon or Kavon, I should get that name right. Remind me to find the pronunciation for this before we end the show today. Buck is from, where's number 24? Buck is from, I think, Virginia, right? So when I saw that, I was like, all right, we're talking about an old black woman in Virginia. If she said buck-eyed, makes sense. Like, I see how she got there. But yeah, so let's just call him Buck till I get the pronunciation right on that. So I could see where Buck could be there like a full-time guy. Kind of like last year, remember they were going like Spoon, Reek, Julian, Jamal, Quandre lineups. I feel like they could get to that place with Buck as like a full-time starter because he's dynamic. He's a playmaker. He hits hard. He brings energy. I don't know if everybody got to listen to it. He was mic'd up, I think, for the Titans game. He's just a big ball of energy. He's just like Spoon, and just like how they had Jamal, talkative guy, energy, real talky, like before the snap, So that would be. I don't know if that counts as a surprise, but that would probably be my vote.
Okay, I'll go with Derek Hall. I think depending on Draymond Jones, who is quote unquote supposed to be the starter, but if that hamstring is going to linger on, I think D Hall could have something to say and challenge Boye Mafe for that spot. And what we saw from preseason has been thumbs up. I've liked it. He's setting the edge on the run, and he's also destroying quarterbacks and offensive linemen. So with that being said, I feel he has a really good opportunity now, especially with DT, Darrell Taylor, being traded, to really have more of an impact and get more reps in the game. And if he can have flashes and continue to play at a high level, he might find himself getting more time on the field. And I know Mike's favorite quote is, are you on the field in the last 2 minutes? Well, if Derek Hall finds himself on the field in the last 2 minutes of the game, you know what that means. He's taken that next step, and he's become a premier edge rusher and edge defender in the run. So that's one player that I'm kind of keeping an eye out on. I think he's really taken that next step, and now it's just important to continue that into the regular season as you go up against even better offensive tackles, tight ends, etc. Because he's going to see those type of players week in and week out. It won't be your 2s and 3s anymore. But if he can find that edge and dominance, I'm going to definitely pencil him in as someone that stands out and can make some splash plays and have an effect on this defense.
His name is Kavon, by the way. I looked it up.
I was actually on the way looking that up too, but perfect. This next one
from Highland Springs, Virginia. So yeah, I had all those things right. Yeah. So yeah, we can call him Kavon or Buck. We got the backstory on Buck now.
This next one is from 13 ones, I believe. Yeah, 13 ones. I think Mike Morris by far has played the most preseason snaps of any other player. What's the reason for that, Mike? Or what do you think the reason is for that?
I think the same reason that Boye at one point was playing a while. They just, you think about it, they don't have a lot of outside backers. they just don't. They really were only rostering, I think, 8. when everyone's healthy, only like 8 for camp. And then you lost Draymond, and then you lost DT. I mean, before the trade, DT was hurt. So that puts you down to 6. And then if you're not going to play Chenna much, that puts you down to 5. So you're just kind of thin. That's all. And also, Mike Mo didn't play all of last year pretty much outside of the first game. So this coaching staff don't really care about any of that anyway. So they're trying to evaluate him. And he's a young guy, late round pick, 5th round or something like that. Yeah, get out there. You know, what's the harm in playing him? I don't think it's because he's on the fringe or anything. He did play a lot of snaps, though. Let's see. He played 131 snaps. That was second only to DJ James. So, yeah, that is a lot of snaps. I'm with you on that. But I also think he played a lot because he's versatile. He could play inside and he could play outside. So when you're talking about being thin at some positions due to injury, the guys who can play multiple spots, you throw them out there. I thought Mike looked good too. I think he's really, really, really strong. Like he just shows up. I mean, I think he's like 300 pounds, so should be strong, right? But you can just feel the strength. Very similar to Derek Hall, where you feel the strength when you're watching him. And I think he knocked down a pass today. Like the length really shows up as well. I don't think Mike will play much during the regular season, but I do. Depth and being thin is why he played, a lot in the preseason. Because think about it. Would you rather play, if you're the staff, right, trying to evaluate your players, would you rather play Mike Morris a bunch or like Nelson Caesar? I'm going to play Mike Mo over my undrafted rookies. I want to see what I have in my draft pick.
This next one is from Disintegrator. And it's straight to the point. Did O'Connell play his way onto the team against the Browns?
No, I don't think so. I don't think any of the inside linebackers had particularly good training camps or preseason. I thought O'Connell was the best of like the non-starting bunch. Like if we loop Tyrese Knight in with the starters, then take him out of that sample. Yeah, probably Patrick O'Connell. But, I mean, there's a reason they traded for this kid from Carolina. I haven't watched much of Michael Barrett, the kid they traded for, got rid of Mike Jack and picked him up, 7th rounder out of Michigan. A few things stand out about that trade. I know this was about O'Connell, but this lumps in because we're talking about the inside backers and the depth. So a couple things. One, Carolina just gave up on a dude they just drafted. Huge red flag. That's huge. Second thing, when Mike McDonald was asked about him on whatever day that was, he was asked in the context of, oh, hey, you coach this guy, so you should know him, right? And Mike didn't cop to any of that. He was just like, yeah, guys in Carolina talked him up, good decision by John and his boys. Nothing. He was like, yeah, obviously he was there when I was there, but, played 2 more years after that. It was nothing about like, yeah, no, I know Mike's character, his work ethic, or none of that, which was kind of threw me off a little bit. I don't know how much Mike Barrett played. I don't think he was a starter when Mike McDonald was there, but for him to just act like, I don't even know, bro, like that. John just said we trading for him. That was kind of his response. It was a little strange to me because usually if you coached a guy before, there's some advantages there. He just didn't play into those at all, which is really strange because Mike McDonald's also an inside linebackers guy too. So it was just none of that. So those 2 things stood out to me. But trading for Mike Barrett was just an indictment of the rest of the inside linebacker room to me. And it makes sense. You watch the film, you watch some of these guys in coverage, and it's just like, that's not going to cut it. That's not going to cut it, in particular in this division. If you're not on your stuff in coverage against Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, you will be unemployed. That's just how it works. And it doesn't matter who you are. It does not matter. They will find you. They are like they're just like, have you movie reference time, Chris? We haven't done this yet. Have you seen Dawn of the Dead?
One of my favorites. Something you disagree with, but continue.
No, I like this. I like the zombie movie. It was good. Well, it's a bad movie, but it's good.
See?
But it's good. It's got replay value. So you remember the scene when they're on top of the roof and they're just bored. And they're playing games with the guy who was across the way. He got the gun shop.
Ving Rhames' friend, yes.
Yes, I think it's Andy is his name. And what they do is, for the people who haven't seen the movie, the zombies are just kind of, wandering in between the gun shop and the mall, which is where the main characters are stationed in the film. And Vin Rames, he holds up a whiteboard with a name on it, a celebrity. And because he thinks that one of the zombies looks like that celebrity, and Andy's job, the guy at the gun shop on the roof of the gun store that he owns, his job is to find the lookalike and blow his head off. And so he's got him in the scope. Boom. I think they kill like Rosie O'Donnell and like one other person in this scene. Anyway, that is dang, I forgot where I was going with that. Where was I going with that? Who was we just talking about? Inside backers. Dang, where was I going with that?
Well, the coverage issues that they've had, bringing in.
Yes, here we go. Thank you. So Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay, if you're an inside linebacker with some coverage issues, they're just like Andy with the scope, looking for the zombies that look like Rosie O'Donnell. They're just like, you're a little slow at your pedal, huh? All right, then. Dig route behind you. Bow. You don't got that sideline to sideline, huh? Watch this Deebo Samuel jet sweep your direction. Bow. So I feel like that's probably what Mike McDonald is thinking when he's so critical of that room, which is like, we need you guys to be on all three phases, or just two phases, run and pass. And if you're not, you won't play, So no, I don't think Patrick played his way on. Maybe he makes it, maybe he don't. But I feel like whoever makes it at a linebacker room that ain't Tyrese Knight, they're like guy number 53 on the roster. Meaning that if there's someone has to be cut to make room for someone, a guy heals up, you're probably gone. That's just kind of how I feel about that room. I think I'm glad we brought that back because I was lost for a little bit, but we got it. I wanted to get a movie reference in. I feel like we hadn't done one, so
you got it.
That in. Yeah.
At Ziggy Not Nice, who do you guys feel is going to be the starting linebackers for Week 1?
Whew. I joked with. I don't know if I mentioned this in Tennessee after the Tennessee or on the Tennessee episode, but I did joke with somebody that, man, y'all might want just go dime,
We talked about it on this episode.
We did? Okay. Yeah.
Because I said they're going to be like the Dallas Cowboys. You're going to have to bring your safeties down.
That's right. We did talk about that Dallas Cowboys defense was actually good. So there's precedent for being good doing that. You don't want to do that. But I think the starters will be Jerome Baker and Tyrell Dodson. I saw Jerome come back to practice this week. A little bit of stuff with the offense going against defense, but what was encouraging more than that was him being in the installs. We can't really take pictures or videos of the installs, but we can see them. And he was doing those with the starting defense. And that tells me, again, I'm not reporting this, no one's told me, but that indicates to me that they expect him to play, Week 1, because they're going over the stuff that the starters are going to do. Like, here's how we play this, here's how we play that. There'd be no reason to put him in there over Tyrese Knight if the expectation is that Tyrese Knight will be playing against Denver or New England or whoever else. That's just kind of my thought process on it. So I would expect starting linebackers to be Tyrell Dodson and Jerome Baker. I have no idea what that's going to look like. I haven't seen Jerome really. I don't even know how many practices I saw him out there for, Hamstrings are dangerous, man. You need guys' hammies to be back. You want those to be back. Because if it goes, you are cooked. You can't tough that out. I don't care how muscular, strong, buff, what type of warrior's blood you have in your veins. Once your hammy goes, you go. You are done.
You got to explain how Deebo played through it, because I still don't understand how he did it in the Netflix series on receiver.
I thought that was his shoulder or something.
No, it was his shoulder. He hurt his hamstring, and he dug through it, and I just don't know how he did that. I'm sure
did he do it in the Super Bowl?
Yes.
Oh, that's different. Super Bowl, that's fine. Because if it goes, there's no games left.
It had to have gone, because there's no way you can. It's not possible. I was stunned. I said, how is he out there? But anywho.
No, Super Bowl is different because guys play with broken bones and torn MCLs.
Yeah,
and
you can play with a broken bone, but you can't physically move with a hamstring. It's like impossible.
Well, no, so you can shoot something up in you to be like, all right, I'm good for the next like 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's all I could think about. They had to
but in the offseason it's different. I think they did that with George Kittle. I think whatever they did with George, they couldn't even show.
I can't lift my shoulder. Oh my gosh, I can lift it now. It works. That was crazy. It was magic. My man said, I can't lift my arm. Oh my gosh, I can lift it. Let's go. It's like, what? It was just 10 minutes ago. You couldn't move.
Yeah, no, that was, See, so you can do that for the Super Bowl, but after that, you're a goner. So yeah, I think that's probably how Deebo toughed it out. You're right though. That was that series showed how tough these dudes are for real. Stuff be coming off the bone and they can still do it. But when that hamstring goes, That better be your last game of the year. Because it will be your last game of the year, whether you want it to be or not, if your hamstring is cooked.
We got one from Chris Letson. In your opinions, which player that was leaning towards the wrong side of the fence solidified a spot on the 53 tonight, and which player leaning towards the right side of the fence lost a spot against the Browns on Saturday night?
This is a good one. This is not sexy, but one of the roster projection guys I flipped Mike Jarrell and Stone Forsyth. I think I'm going with Stone over Mike. I feel like I usually don't cut draft picks. John has been fairly consistent about John Schneider, that is, about keeping his draft picks after their first camp. I went back and looked a few years back, and he usually keeps guys who are healthy. Yeah, he's cut some guys in the past, but it's because they're hurt or something like that. DeMarcus Christmas, I think like Justin Senior, some other guys have been cut because they've been hurt. Healthy guys usually make it, but after watching, and this wasn't just because of today, just the last few days, I'm just thinking, I'm not super high on Stone, but I do think he's worth keeping. And I do feel like if you want to get rid of Mike, you can just keep him on your practice squad. I don't feel like you're in danger of him. So I guess that would be one that I flipped. I guess that kind of answers both sides of that question: who was on the wrong side and who was on the right side and went the other way. I think, and this is not necessarily his fault, I probably, going into today, I don't remember, probably had Aesop making it. And today I would probably flip that. I think I did flip that. I just feel like there were too many things that went against him. Nothing that he did wrong, but like Cody White making a big play, D making a big play, Derek not doing the wrong thing. And then, I thought something that would help Aesop would be the special teams, but he doesn't get any kick return stuff to the fourth quarter. They got D Williams out there returning kicks to start the game. I don't even think D's got a shot to make the roster. D Williams, that is. And he's out there in the first quarter returning kicks. I'm like, that's interesting. So those would probably be the guys. I also think if Artie Burns' injury is a real thing, then Lance Boykin probably makes the team. Lance can cover. That taunting penalty was just bad look, but he can cover. He's probably one of their better cover corners of the Young Bucks. Like, I think he's probably better than both the rookies in coverage. He just can't be yelling at guys in their face, apparently.
Remember what Aesop said, right? When we had him on? I asked him, I said, who is someone that, is competitive when you line up and, you got to strap it up when you go one-on-one with them and your one-on-ones or it's 7-on-7? He said it would probably be Lance. Lance is real sticky with the coverage. So to your point, Mike, Lance is one of them young dudes that stood out to you, and Aesop is right there with you backing it up. So that's a great point there. This next one comes from Sam, familiar listener. What position groups will have the toughest competition for the final 53?
It's definitely receiver, just because they're so deep, man. I really do feel bad about some of these other guys because there's some talent in there. And I watched some preseason games this year. Some other teams, Seahawks are pretty deep, probably one of the deeper rooms, I would say. Some of these other receiver rooms are just bad. Like, once you get past like wide receiver 3, it gets thin. Some teams don't even have that, So that's easily the deepest one. That's where they had surplus. Like, I feel like if you were going to trade somebody, that's where you could have afforded to, where you have depth and people get hurt, you're still good. Not outside backer. Although I understand the Darryl thing. That's probably about some money as well. I wouldn't have done it, but I understand that. I feel like, man, if there was room for Tayakata, I'd be happy for him to make it because I feel like he can play in this league. I do. I feel like he can. I feel like he's just trustworthy, very similar to Derek, does a lot of the right stuff. I go back and watch film. He tends to pop. Like, I like him. He's a good player. I know the question really wasn't about him, but I do like him. I'm looking at the roster right now, and I was thinking of guys like Lance Boykin, who I like him. The numbers just don't match. I feel like DK has also mentioned Lance Boykin to me before once. So like he can cover. And I feel like Ty kind of falls in that spot too, Anybody else? Nah, that's it.
What surprise roster Actually, what surprise roster make do each of you predict? Like, for example, Jamie Sheriff for balling out, he could potentially make the roster. So I'll go with someone that Mike just mentioned, Ty Okada. All the reasons Mike just touched on. I think he could be a surprise player that makes the squad. It's going to be tough because, boy, it's a competitive safety room. But if they can find a way to make it work, I think he could be the one that makes the surprise, that makes it on the roster and surprises everybody.
You know, I think I'll just steal that from you because I struggled with this on my roster projection. I think I had 5 inside backers. I think I had like Radigan on there. The more I think about that, because I think what happened was the DT trade, I had a free spot. So I was like, oh, who do I give that to? And I really struggled with that. I didn't give that much time to it, right? It's the 53rd guy. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I can't lose no sleep over it. But the more I think about it now, I think I'd rather keep a 5th safety, especially because Rayshawn Jenkins is dinged up right now, I believe. But I think I would rather just have that. I feel like Ty gives you the same stuff that Kobe's probably going to give you, but a little bit more controlled. Like they're both violent and hunting big hits. Like you can kind of see it in game and on film. I just feel like Ty's a little bit more controlled. They're not perfect or anything, but just a little bit more controlled. I feel like sometimes Kobe goes in there trying to lay dudes out and then he'll whiff. And it'll be like a bad whiff too. Like I think on like a 22-yard run against the Titans, like really bad whiff. Today that touchdown was also really rough. I don't know if that was on Kobe. I don't know what they said on the broadcast, but that was rough. Yeah, I think I'm with you. That's the way to get Ty on there though, is you keep 4 backers. So you keep Jerome, Tyrell. I'm missing one. Tyrese and then Michael Barrett, the new guy. So 2 vets, 2 rooks, and then you just keep 5 safeties. Rayshawn, Julian, Kobe, Kavon, and then Ty. That would be. I don't know how many people have Ty making on there, so maybe that counts as a surprise. But yeah, that probably where I would go. Otherwise, maybe 7 receivers, but I feel like you don't need 7 receivers. Like you're fine. I'd rather keep a 5th safety.
This one is from Nick Z Red. Based on camp preseason games as well for either side of the football, who is this season's Jake Bobo?
Yeah, that's probably Jamie Sheriff. Sheriff's such a dope name, by the way. Like a lot, like it's one of those cool last names that just really works for football. I feel like Boss is another one. Depending on what position you play, King is another one. Like whenever I see dudes with those last names, I never see Sheriff though. But when you hear it, though, you're like, ooh, that's dope. Because Sheriff's like a nickname, like. Because what do you call Ian Furness? Oh, you call him the mayor. That's different. But it's in the same vein, though. It's a position of power. Sheriff, mayor, sergeant, whatever. It's like when you call someone Doc or whatever, all these other like cool nicknames. Like I think Sheriff works for that. Because he did ball out. I mean, grain of salt because he's just whipping up on, other rooks. But the athleticism is there. Boy, he's a really good athlete. I don't know what his like relative athletic score was. But yeah, he would probably be the closest thing. I don't think he had as good a preseason as Bobo had, but it was good. On the flip side of that, it's a shame that what's this brother's name? Carlton. We're still naming guys Carlton, huh? I've been watching the Bel Air reboot, so it's funny to see a cat named Carlton. They call him CJ though, which is what I'd probably prefer too. But it's a shame that he didn't make more plays in the preseason. Because in camp, he was really good. He was all over the ball pretty consistently in camp. Even in joint practice, I thought he was good. It just didn't translate. He's kind of like the opposite of Sam Howell. Like Sam Howell just was not good at camp for a lot of days. And then he was just better each game. He was just always better in the game situation. It's very strange. Never seen anything like that. But anyway, that's just on the flip side with Carlton. Because he was really solid of the undrafted guys. Like every day in camp, he was showing up in my notes, and it just didn't translate. Didn't get a lot of targets in the games, but it just didn't pop the same way it does in practice. But he's a guy I think they should keep around as well.
Another familiar listener, Larry Collins. Does anyone have a bigger gap between starter and backup than Charles Cross? Also, is backup left tackle a problem?
No, actually, I feel like. So let me answer both of those. The first answer is yes. There is a bigger gulf between Sam and Geno than there is Charles and George Fant. Like this is the best I've felt about their backup left tackle situation in years. I tell you, years. Whereas, like, I think if Charles has to go down, like, George is fine. George has been a left tackle in this league. He's been a right tackle in this league. He's a lot better than he was when he came here as an undrafted rookie, former basketball player like Western Kentucky or wherever he's from. Like, really, really, really solid, trustworthy swing tackle. Whereas I think the gap between Geno and Sam is, like, really wide, for a lot of the reasons we were talking about with, like, the command of the offense, the arm talent, the accuracy, I just feel like, because I'm really high on Geno. I know you are too, Chris. So I just think that gap is huge, huge, like real big. And it's more so because of how good I think Geno is, versus thinking that Sam stinks. I think Sam's fine, but I just think that gap is easily the widest on the team. Like Geno, I think, like Geno led the league in completion percentage, which is not everything, but like the more I've thought about that, that's really hard because Geno is not a dink and dunk guy either. Geno's bombs away. Like he believes in that. So to be that way and to lead the league in completion percentage, what he did a couple years ago, and even last year, it's a down year, he had a decent completion percentage too. Like he's just an accurate QB while still being an aggressive QB. That's really hard in this league because the DBs are really good, So I just think highly of him. So yeah, I think that's the biggest gap. That said, though, if something happened to Charles, they are way more equipped to deal with that than they have been in years past. Like last year, bad. This year, they're okay.
This next one is from Existing in the Context. This might be a long shot, but if the Seahawks are struggling, let's say around the trade deadline, could Tyler Lockett be traded?
No, I feel like, one, I don't feel like the team will be that bad where you're like, all right, let's start unloading. But in this hypothetical, we'll address it that way. No, I don't think Tyler's the guy. I feel like DK is the guy. If you were to like get to that place where like the Broncos were like that a couple years ago, they unloaded Von Miller to the Rams. Their Super Bowl year, like I think they got like a second and a third or something. Decent package for a guy that old. Now think about it. Or even the Commanders last year unloaded Chase Young and Montez Sweat. I feel like somebody else did something similar a couple years ago too. Like you just see these teams that get to the halfway point and they're like, well, we stink. Oh, the Giants last year gave up Leonard Williams. Same thing. They watched that Monday night game and said, boy, we aren't good. We need capital. We need to fix our O-line. And they did, they gave up Leonard and got a really good pick for him. So if the Seahawks were to get to that point, the person who yields you the best return is easily DK, because I think DK's got another year after this on his contract too. So if so, that extra year of team control, boy, that makes DK so valuable. And how old is DK? I think DK don't even turn like 26 or 27 until December. I think his birthday is his jersey number, which is so cool, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, DK signed through 2025. So yeah, he would easily net you a first round pick without question. His skill set, his age, contract, you can control his contract for another year after this. Like if the ship really gets to sinking, yeah, you call pretty much any team in the league and they'll be like, yeah, we'll give you a first round pick for DK Metcalf. We'll extend him too, probably. Yeah, that will be the guy, not Tyler.
This next one is from Noah_253. First off, Seahawks offense and defense looked great. Do you think the offense will be an aggressive pass first with all the weapons, or be more run heavy, conservative with focus on defense?
No, I don't think they'll be conservative if the O-line allows them to be aggressive. And I will defend Pete here a little bit because I was hard on Pete. We were both hard on Pete. Run, pass. And for obvious reasons, justifiable reasons based on the information available to us. But I have a theory, Chris. And I have some stuff to support it, but that's for another pod. Right now, it's just a theory that Pete didn't run a run-heavy offense because with like the Legion of Boom years, because he's a stick in the mud. I think that was a reflection of how he felt about his quarterback. I feel like he felt we can't just be what Russ wanted to be. Russ wanted to be like the Chiefs. He wanted to be like the Saints. They were a really good example at the time. Like quick game, Drew Brees, commanding stuff. No. You know, Peyton Manning, Omaha. You know, and I don't think Pete felt like he had the quarterback for that. And I know that because, or I feel this way with my theory because I think he viewed Geno that way. Like at first he did. At first he was like, "Oh, Geno's not built like that either." Then after a couple of games, he was like, "You know what? I was wrong. Geno can spin it, and he can do all the things." You know, so I think that Pete's view on offense is very similar to Mike McDonald's, built around the quarterback. At the time, Pete had a quarterback he thought was at his best: play action, run, set it up, deep shot, right? And I think now with Geno, he thought, well, he's a little different. He can spin that all over the field, quick game, go empty, do all the things, you know. That's my theory, at least. So I don't think that Grubb in his youth, I think Grubb's in his 40s, is just automatically more inclined to be more aggressive. I think that in the case of having Michael Penix, like put it this way, if Pete had Michael Penix last year, he would be just as aggressive. He wouldn't have had that Huskies team in 2023 as the OC and just been running the rock with I think the running back was Dylan Johnson at the time. I don't think he would have done that. I think he would have been airing it out just as much because it would have been based on the faith in his quarterback and his O-line. I should throw the O-line in there too. If you don't think your O-line's that good, also you're going to run the ball. So that's my theory on that. So I do think Grubb's going to be aggressive, but I think that that's because it's based on personnel. Like I think if Grubb was the OC of the Broncos, for instance, he would be more conservative based on receiving talent, O-line, quarterback. That's what it's called for. Whereas if Grubb was the OC of the, give me another team, the Bengals, he'd be more aggressive. Quarterback, O-line, weapons. So I think that Grubb and a lot of the good OCs are built that way. They do things based on their O-line and their quarterback. Not so much of just like, this is how I think that you got to score points. You score points in the way that best makes your quarterback's job easier. You know, so yes, I think Grubb will be more aggressive, but not just because he's like young and innovative. A lot more so just because that's what the personnel suggests you should be. And I think Pete would agree with that too, and Shane Waldron, for what it's worth. They just didn't have the O-line for it.
One from at Rock Paper Cloud. What's the post-game vibe like this close to cut down?
I never spend too much time in locker room and cut down day anymore, just because it's like I feel like I need a good relationship with guys to talk about how they're feeling right now to get like a genuine answer, you know, because it's a really stressful time for some dudes. You know, some dudes are more open about it because you think about it, it's like the questions are generally, hey, how do you feel about maybe having a job in 48 hours? That's kind of tough. It's not like the usual, how do you feel about the game you just won or lost? You know what I mean? So when I have relationships with guys, I'll chat with them. Sometimes I'll use that time to chat with some of the veterans, you know, holler at them, see how they're feeling. I wish I got a chance to talk to Lockett today. He got out of there quicker than I could talk to him, but you know, stuff like that. But that's usually, I've learned that over the years because some dudes are more like anxiety on 10, you know, some dudes just like, it's in God's hands, you know, I'm going to sleep good no matter what. I put good stuff on tape, yada. So the vibes are usually good, you know, but every once in a while you get somebody who's like, I don't know, man, I'm worried, you know, and they tell you this like sob story of like, you know, what's going on back home or whatever. And you're just like, damn, man, I don't even want to print that. That's sad. You know, but it's the reality of the situation. That's why I have so much empathy around this time of year because the end of the preseason is boring. It's a bunch of dudes we don't know out there trying to make plays, but everybody's the man pretty much in their hometown or to their family. You know, whether you're guy number 90 on the roster, you're probably the man at the crib. So I try to keep that in mind. But, you know, the vibes the last few years with the Seahawks have been good. You know, guys are pretty much generally like, hey, even if I know I'm probably not going to make this team, there's 31 others. I'm cool. I put some good stuff on tape, you know. So the vibes are usually pretty decent. And then there's just like the veterans who are like, yeah, extra week off. I'm going out. You know, then I'm always to those guys like, hey, brother, be safe, and then they know what that means, and then move on. But yeah, general good vibes, but yeah, be careful with some of these dudes because everybody handles the anxiety of potential unemployment differently.
Abraham Newell, Mike, biggest takeaway in how different the team looks under the new coaching regime.
Yeah, I think this. I would just reiterate some of the stuff we talked about earlier in the show with the offense, the if-thens. I feel like Shane tried to do a little bit more of that, but I feel like Grubb is a lot more all in on it based on what I could see. Although the offense was a lot more vanilla than what we've seen in practice. We've seen some stuff in practice, stuff that they just have not shown in the games, understandably so. So the offense, that's what stands out. Some of the if-then, Geno's command, yada, yada, yada. What I just talked about with the aggression as well. On defense, and I'm glad Reek Willen mentioned it on the broadcast. Apparently, I haven't seen the clip of it, but apparently he talked about how they're playing more man coverage this year because that's what I'm seeing in practice and what we're seeing in the games too. Mike McDonald, and I looked it up, he played a lot of man last year with the Ravens. They were a top 10 man coverage team last year in terms of percentage of snaps and man. They trust their corners. They had trustworthy corners last year too, so I understand why he did it. And they had trustworthy backers and trustworthy safeties because it ain't just corners who are in man in these situations. I think that's the big thing that stands out is Mike McDonald's going to have a lot of scenarios and a lot of weeks this year and this season where he says, hey, boys, put your big boy pads on and strap up. That's it. We going cover one. We going or even just a lot of cover three where it's like, hey, nothing over your head, brother. We'll handle the rest. Hey, 2-man right here. Get your leverage right. Strap up. Make a play on the ball when it comes to you. You can just tell Mike has that faith in his not only his back end, but his front end to get home. Because if you're going to play man, you got to trust your front too. Like they can't cover forever. I don't care who you got. And Mike trusts the whole thing. So that's the big thing that's been standing out. I'm glad Reek mentioned it because I've been sitting on that for a little bit. Because you can just see it in practice where it's just like, oh, yeah, they're disguising it, but this ultimately is just man. They're just showing something and just ended up in man, some version of man. Not to say they'll be man every snap, but it's a significantly higher rate of man than Clint ran and Ken Norton ran. And I think that's a personnel thing. I think Norton would have ran a ton of man if he had this group of corners. He just didn't have this. Trey Flowers for like 3 years. Can't run all that, man. Quentin Dunbar on a bad knee, So I think this group allows Mike to do that, and that is the biggest difference. I don't know how to pan out, but I just look at the roster, and I'm just like, there's no team where I'm like, you can't do that against them. I feel good about pretty much every matchup, even the Dolphins. That's the one where I'm like, ooh, that could get dicey, but
yeah, you got to play zones. Too much speed, man.
That is a lot of speed.
You can't man up, bro.
But I feel like you can, though. I feel like you can,
Mike. I feel like you can't. There's just too much 4-2. You can't teach speed, Mike. And when a dude's faster, you can just throw it up and say, "Oh yeah, we're playing." No, you can't play man. It's going to be a lot of cover 4.
But they only have 2 fast guys, though, right?
No, they have 4. Raheem Mostert's fast.
No, I'm talking about your corners aren't covering them guys.
Well, it just makes everything else more challenging. They run. It's not as if they don't go downfield. Their running backs are part of the passing game, Mike. They put these.
Yeah, but if Tua's throwing go balls to Raheem Mostert to Devon A-Chain, I feel like that's a win for your defense. You're right, though. They are fast, but it's like I need to see that before I fear it, Whereas like
go watch the Denver game. We can go see how much offense they cooked up.
Well, that was bad. That was an anomaly in a lot of ways. I think Miami is probably the only one I'm like really worried about. But Reek run 4-2,
but there's not 4 Reeks on the field.
Yeah, but there's only one Tyreek Hill too, though. And
Jalen Waddle runs, I think, a 4-3 as well.
Yeah, no, Waddle different. Yeah, no, that's probably the only. Otherwise, I'm like, I trust everybody else in cover. You know what really helps me with this? We can go on the next question after this. But what really helps me, and I rewatched this game on my flight, is that Bengals game. Because after Reek gave up those 2 touchdowns in the first drive, both in zone, I believe, or the first 2 drives, both in zone, Clint was basically like, hey, can y'all just strap up, please? And they were like, yeah, coach. We wanted to do that anyway. And they just locked healthy Joe Burrow, down with all his receivers. Higgins, Boyd, Jamar, locked down. They didn't score. Well, they scored a field goal off of like a turnover. It was like a 0-yard drive. legitimately 3 plays, 0 yards in a field goal. So that was it. They just didn't move the ball after that. After those first 2 drives, and when you can do that, because that was the best receiving core in the league last year, the Bengals, when healthy with Joe. If you can strap up them in their crib, you can strap up anybody. To me, so I think is that game. I keep just going back to it because that had Spoon, Trey, and Reek, and it was like that gives me the faith that there's no team I'm afraid of. I think the Vikings are a little scary, but maybe by the time they play Caleb Williams and the Bears, they've put that together because Rome, Keenan Allen, and DJ Moore is real deal. That's real deal as well. That is. I'm not going to act like that ain't. That's cold. By then, who knows who's on the field? Though. That's around Christmas. But I'm just not afraid of nobody. I feel like they can strap up pretty much anybody.
This next one is from Everything Seahawks from everywhere. Super Bowl, am I right?
I can't go that far, man. Not with this front. I gotta see the front. And I gotta see the inside backers, man. I need both of those groups to be average. That's it. Just be average. If they can be average, still not Super Bowl, but you're a lot closer. You're a lot closer because I don't really feel like you're below average at any other position group. You know, that's across the entire roster. I feel like those are the two where it's like it's dicey. Everywhere else, I feel like you're average at worst. It's those 2 position groups, and they matter because those guys don't come off the field. Your inside backers and your offensive line, those 7 dudes are on the field every snap, ideally. You know, so that's why those groups matter to me so much. I can rotate a corner, you know what I'm saying? I can rotate a safety if I really need to, you know what I'm saying? I guess I could rotate a backer if I really want, but line, that's the 5, you know? So if I see them guys, then you can book your tickets to where's Super Bowl at? New Orleans?
I'm just gonna look. Let me just.
I think it's New Orleans. I'm pretty sure it's New Orleans. So book your tickets to New Orleans if the O-line is average. If not, book them to like Detroit for the wild card round or something.
Last one comes from Quentin. Is the wave ever really appropriate behavior at a sporting event?
Absolutely not. I don't think any adult should do the wave. I think I read somewhere where the wave started. Don't remember. Doesn't matter. Don't do it. I feel like we all as a society, when the wave happens, that's when we should come together. Damn voting for president. Damn recycling and saving the planet. What we need to do as a society, we need to focus our energy on getting rid of the wave at sporting events. Stop it. No, it's dumb. You look dumb. It's silly.
I'm almost positive when we filled in for, I want to say, Softy last year, we were talking about the wave and you went in depth on how it started. And it ended up being, I want to say, a lengthy segment on why the wave should be banned from all sporting events. But yeah, I remember, I'm pretty sure we were filling in for on 93.3 KJRFM for Softy and Fane. And you did some research because you was hot. You was not letting it go.
I feel very passionate about this one. I really do feel like I will vote for whichever president this year puts that on their like list of policies, abolishing the wave. I have some other stuff that I really feel passionately about, you know, the price of airline seats, you know, price of groceries right now, you know, rent, all these other things that matter, you know, student debt. But I will put those things to the side if one of these candidates is like, you know what I'm going to do? Abolish the wave. You got my vote. I will go down to the ballot. Usually I mail in. I'll go down there.
I'm guessing you closed your eyes when you saw the wave tonight.
I just shook my head in disappointment. I'm just disappointed in people who participate. It's just not. It's not necessary.
It's not the wave.
It's not. Get rid of mascots. Get rid of the wave. We'll be all right.
There's nothing wrong with mascots, but we don't need to get into that.
Yeah, that's a discussion for another day. I don't need Blitz coming at me anymore. It's good we made peace. So
sounds like Mike got his behind beat up. He got jumped by a few mascots for talking
absolutely
crazy.
Not. Ain't no grown man dressed as a bird ever gonna beat me up. I promise you that.
Mike caught them hands.
No way. They'll throw Blitz in Lake Washington before I ever get. Ain't no way on God's green is that gonna happen. But yeah, no mascots and no wave. I feel like that should be our societal goals. Damn this wall Trump trying to build. Stop. Don't worry about the immigrant invasion, brother. Worry about the wave. You know, that's what matters. That's where our focus should be as a nation. I would like us to band together on that.
Oh, all right. We'll see what happens, man. But we want to thank each and every single one of you for taking the time out of your morning, afternoon, evening to listen to the Seahawks and or watch Seahawks Man to Man podcast. We appreciate all your love and support. If you haven't subscribed, but you're listening right now, I need you to go to YouTube, type in Seahawks Man, the number 2 man. Go ahead and subscribe. We'll have content for you for the rest of the season because, boy, things are getting rolling. So, yeah, Mike, is there anything you want to add before we get out of here?
Appreciate the love and support. Enjoy the week off. Enjoy some college football before we get going with the regular season. We'll be back before week 1, Seahawks Broncos. Appreciate the love. Peace.